Hey, I'm Christopher Rosen here at Gold Derby, and I'm joined by John David Washington, the star and producer of Malcolm and Marie, also star of Tenet. Big year for him. John, thanks for doing this. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I wanted to start talking to you a little about, I know Sam Levinson, the writer-director of Malcolm and Marie, approached you, I guess, last summer with like the script. Can I talk to you a little about like once you were deciding you want to do it, how much input you had, with the character and the role? Because it feels like to me, not to, like, it felt like a maybe like a before midnight kind of situation where you guys are all throwing ideas in. But I guess what was that like for you, and like how much like collaboration did you have on the character and the script?
Well, I was extremely excited about what I didn't even get to read it first. He was reading me pages over the phone about of what he's written, and I remember feeling a bit of anxiety and definitely I was nervous as hell because I keep hearing them, and I'm not hearing really any stage direction. It's all dialogue. So it's like these are like lengthy speeches and this back and forth, but what was being said was so beautiful and so visceral and energetic and passionate, and seems like very specific. So it was what was on the pages I was excited to do already. What was really cool and a lot of fun, and which makes me love it even more and love Sam for this forever, is the collaborative factor. So we were exchanging basically our experiences in the industry and where we are in our careers and what we like about films, what we like about characters. I personally are drawn to characters that sort of that are contradictory and are multi-layered, and sometimes being able to mask that pain or that whatever they're going through, and sometimes be able to unleash it in a calmly manner. So all those kinds of discussions were put into the shaping of Malcolm. And so it felt like a universal experience and character.
So I know you guys shot this during the summer, like with coronavirus, whatever, not clarifications, but like rules and stuff, so you would be all safe. I guess, can you talk a little about the prep though? Because one of the things I was struck by in the film is like, in a relationship, I think like an argument between your significant other is a super intimate thing, and you and Zendaya have such great chemistry on that front. And I was wondering how much time you were able to like prep with that and like get like that relationship. It feels like so like authentic, I guess. So I guess, can you talk about being able to create that in like such what I'd imagine was not a great amount of time?
That's funny when you say like, and I laugh at myself. You just said the word authentic. Every time I hear the word authenticity, now because of this film, I'm like, I gotta choose another word. I love that word because it does like display, and it really captures everything what it means. It's like it applies in a lot of these things. But anyway, like I was saying before, it felt like a camp. We were like in a group together. Like we were in Carmel at this beautiful resort, and we were all just quarantining together. So we got about 13 days before we even shot. We were rehearsing in a parking lot, discussing in a parking lot, taking hikes. Kevin Turin, his wife, Sam, myself, we take hikes, we discuss our just all of our experiences and our relationships in the industry, and really our relationship with this artistry. So the chemistry was happening through that. And honestly, between Zendaya and I, once we found out we were in the Beehive, we love Beyonce, it was all good from there. Like that was our common ground. Like, Beyonce is one of the greatest. Well, okay, good. We're gonna get along just fine. There's nowhere else but to go up in this case. So Beyonce really was the glue. So all of the chemistry that you spoke of, we have to credit Lemonade.
I was going to say what album was it, but yeah, Lemonade is a good one actually, and I think aesthetically kind of goes with the film too. It's really that is a good, yeah. You mentioned like the authenticity. I mean, I think that's like a fascinating thing, and what I really liked about the film is you guys, both the characters, do kind of like strive for a discussion of authenticity, right? Like her take is that like it's her, who should tell their own stories, and I think a lot of the Malcolm, a lot of your characters like contention with the industry is also like the idea of like a false authenticity among the film critics and the film discourse and like the film Twitter. I guess, can you talk about, like, I was fascinated by the movie coming so hard for that space. And I guess, can you talk a little about like, your relationship to like the online film Twitter discourse, which I think is going to be, which I like that this movie is like kind of talking about that in a way that maybe a lot of movies haven't yet, because it's like a newish type of, arena to exchange ideas, let's say.
Well, I think I like that. The exchanging of ideas is what I think is at the heart of what's at least one of the parts of the movie that Rant is about. I think he's just bringing up questions. I think he's talking about who gets to say what and who gets to comment on what's being said. The movie's not taking a point of view. The movie is displaying points of views, plural. I think the point is to have these open discussions. Let's get it out and talk about it. And if you miss on a film, that should be talked about. If you nail something, that should be celebrated. But the point is to give it a shot, to try it, and don't let anybody define you. We're seeing Malcolm on what's supposed to be the best night of his life, him really trying to define himself and trying to find his identity as a filmmaker. And that's what some of the passionate discussions are about. And also trying to define or getting told who he is in the relationship with his woman, with Marie. He thought it was one thing and he finds out it's another. Or maybe he always knew that, and it's unfortunate this conversation has to happen tonight, but it's something that had to happen. So I think it's what I loved about it. I connect to that identity, discussion, coming from where I came from, and by that I mean who I'm related to, always trying to find my own identity. So everything he's yelling about or talking about, trying to find, I related to deeply.
The other thing I really liked is a scene, the movie mentions like real life filmmakers, right? So obviously like Malcolm's discussing like Spike Lee, who obviously you've worked with, which I just think is like a great meta right. thing. But like one of the things that he says about like Do the Right Thing is that like it wasn't cool to be political when he made Do the Right Thing. And now it is maybe cooler to be political. And I guess that idea I thought was like so fascinating. Is that like, I mean, like, like Spike, is that like something you would have talked to Spike about? Like, did your real life relationship inform maybe some of those thoughts about Spike? Because I just found that really interesting.
Well, it depends on what story you're telling. I mean, you can politicize anything, what Malcolm is saying. You can make a Lego movie and it can still be political because it's an African-American's perspective or the lens through an African-American filmmaker about Legos, or it could be about Barbie. I think it's just, the point is, don't put me in a box, which many artists, writers, I think everybody can relate to at some level, not to be put in the box. The ones that are the creators and the ones that want to display their versatility. I think that's what Sam has been doing throughout the years, from Assassination Nation to this. I'm thinking he's doing that beautifully. I'm trying to do that. I mean, Zendaya, from Disney to now, it's like she's showing her versatility. That's what we all yearn for, and that's what Malcolm is talking about simply.
You have mentioned like you mentioned like working with like Sam, and you guys had that time to like talk about this. The other thing I really loved about it is that it's like kind of it basically is like a real time movie. So you're like getting to build these characters and like build their emotions throughout. I guess, can you talk a little about like being able to sustain such a level of emotion, because it just is like it kind of builds and builds and builds, and you get so many different layers of Malcolm throughout. And it kind of like a little bit reminded me of, it's a weird comp, but like No Country for Old Men, how in No Country for Old Men in the beginning it's like very violent and they're showing the violence, and by the end it's kind of like, as you get in, it kind of like levels out and there isn't as much visualized violence. And not that just like the way Malcolm starts on like Such a House on Fire, and by the end he's kind of like a little bit laid bare. I guess, can you talk about having to do that and sustain that kind of performance throughout, when you don't have like, you're not moving in different sets, let's say, it's all the same house and everything like that. I just found that really like it's a great performance. And I just wanted to talk a little bit, hear you talk a little about how you guys like were able to sustain that basically.
Well, thank you. I for one, the times that we were living in, like actually, I found myself in desperate, dire need to perform. I didn't know if I was ever going to act again. So, I mean, a lot of my real life was, this is the opportunity of a lifetime, for one, just to work with Sam and Zendaya, that strong team, to say these words, another, and to do what I love to do. That I'm not sure, I had this whole idea I'd be traveling the world selling Tenet, and now I didn't even know at the time if it was even going to come out. So I'm like, I don't know what sets look like, if there be such thing as sets, PGA, DGA, SAG-AFTRA. I didn't know if any of those will even matter anymore. So here we are, getting it cleared, kind of knowing Hollywood is watching us very intently. We had to deliver. We had to deliver. That had everything. So that energy also was put into what the circumstances were in the film and these characters. So I found, I didn't want to be yelling all day. I'm very careful and cautious, cognizant about, angry Black artists. I'm not going for that necessarily. It was just more about the passion that he has for what he loves to do. And I think universally everybody can, as far as that are creatives, can relate to that. And I think what he's receiving from her is what the response is energetically. And it's funny though, like some of the most devastating, harsh words that he spews, I think he's very quiet in that moment. It's very still. And that's something about that means to me, like when somebody's telling you that and they're not even showing any emotion, it's a little more frightening because it's coming from a different, deeper, darker place. It's almost like you're not fighting fair. So those levels were fun to try to find. Using the space, the Caterpillar home was a big deal. That was a character onto in its own right. So we're able to occupy and use and maximize all that space and opportunity to live in it, because it is two people on the night of his life. He is drunk. He has been drinking at the premiere already, so he's on level 10 right now, ready for his mac and cheese, and like let's talk about and discuss the night. And obviously it takes a turn, but so what does that mean emotionally? What does that mean physically for him? That all of that was up for discussion and was fertile ground to build on.
It's also, you're so physical too. Like you were saying, like he moves around a lot. I mean, like, was that stuff how choreographed was that? What is it like? Was Sam like, oh, like, just be as natural as possible and just kind of like feel what's going on? Or were you guys like discussing how you want him to move and stuff and move around the house? Because a lot of the movie, I think, is like you said, like he's, I think he has so many different layers, and he's just very heightened, I guess I would say, like through a lot of it, right? Like he's like very up. So like, can you talk a little about like that, like how you played his physicality and stuff in this?
Right. Well, you ever heard the term liquid courage? Like, I think so. So like, because he's like, he says it in the film, like I'm a little wavy. That's what he says. I think that was his first words. So he's, that liquid courage got him to jump on that counter in front of the mirror, in front of the window. The dancing, I don't think he might dance when he has a good shot. He might dance when he thought a take was great, so that's his kind of thing. I know Sam actually does that when he's happy. He does this little foot dance he does when he's happy with a take. So, you take that all in and use it for the character. But yeah, I just think like Sam, and credit to Marcel, our DP, who really embraced naturalism. They were all about, they didn't really block us too much. We had to figure some stuff out to make it cool and keep it moving, keeping it, moving and making it look interesting cinematically. But it was how we wanted to get there, get to a certain spot at a certain time, but how you wanted to get there is up to you. That's what's interesting. And I really appreciate what Marcel did, capturing our rhythms. I mean, he captured beautiful Black love in this, and how regal it is, and the look of it, and the feel of it, and the mannerisms, the rhythms, were all in there, and you can read them. So I really appreciated how they set it up for us.
You mentioned like how like the coolness factor. I guess like, when did you realize, like, I think this is like I would, like, for lack of a better word, not super eloquent, I think it's like a cool movie too. Like this, like you said, like the visual flair and everything. It's just like, it feels very modern, very like, timely, and like in that sense, not like maybe not, you know what I mean? Not like using timely as like a crutch, but like it feels modern, I guess. And like, when did you realize, I get like, what was it like for you getting to see it? When you getting to see it completed, I guess, and obviously you're a producer on it too. Like, can you talk a little about like knowing that you're making something that's cool, basically? Like, I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of cool too. It's funny because it's hard for me to watch myself in things. It's hard to watch movies I'm in. But what the producer had, I had certain responsibilities, so I had to watch it more than I usually do. But yeah, it felt really good. I mean, it felt good when we were making it, but when you do see it, it felt just as natural. It looked just as natural as it felt making it. It felt just as organic. It looked just as organic as it felt making it. We were truly in sync, all of us. And it does get, you said timely. I think it's timeless. You're not sure what year we're in. We say we're at a party, so it can't be pandemic. But this gives it legs to me. This film can have the same feel in 10 years. Because of the black and white factor, because of the subject matter, and unfortunately, because of the subject matter, So I think all of that is what makes it really cool, and it makes, what it does too for me, is the black and white aspect and how Marcel moved the camera. it really puts the onus on the performances. They put us on a stage, a platform to like go, show it, do it. No hand acting, no necessarily, I need you at a mark, look here, shoulders left, right. It was like, however you move, this is going to happen. But if you're wrong, we're all gonna see that you're wrong. You know what I mean? Now they'd obviously, we talk about stuff that wasn't feeling as right and we'd fix it. But for the most part, those choices were going to be front and center. And so it's an actor's dream to be shot like that person.
Yeah, I mean, and you also have like your monologues, like are the dexterity of your vocal rhythm. I'm just like Malcolm is speaking so quickly and like he's like saying so many complex things. I was like, just watching it, I was like, it's so entertaining to watch him. So I feel like you also get to do a lot of these like really great, like we were talking about before, like the one about like, you know, the if you're going to take your shot at a film, like his kind of take on criticism, I think is so like that scene is just so memorable and like really well done. And like your performance there is like great. It's just so good. Yeah.
Like I said, I was dying to say these. I was dying to say any words, honestly, because of the pandemic, to say these. And just to let it go. I didn't want to be too precious about it because we're not trying to tell the audience what to feel about it. We're trying to tell the audience to feel something about it, not what to feel, but to actually feel, whether you disagree, whether you agree, to feel it, you know, and react to it. We're looking for reaction and discussing what you do agree with, what you feel, what you don't feel. You know, it's funny hearing when couples watch it to where somebody watches it by themselves. You find different feedback from that. So that's what it's about. That's what it's all. That's what also what makes it so much fun.
I feel like, you know, the movie comes out, I think February 5th. So we have some time here before like reviews come out, but in the early going, your performance, I think, I mean, both of you guys have been like very like lauded already. And you as well for this, I guess like, you know, when Black Klansman came out, you were I feel like you were very close in theory to an Oscar nomination. Have you thought about like the awards buzz? Like, I know it's probably weird to think about, but like, is that like gratifying to you to like get that kind of like response, and especially to this so far?
Well, I've been through the, you know, like with Black Klansman and seeing sort of how that all works and campaign and all of that. And, you know, I was just so happy that Spike and Adam Driver and our editor and our who did our score, Terrence, that they got nominated. And it was like, yes, it felt like it was a team win. But honestly, for me, like I'm working right now, I just hope people like the movie, they react to the movie emotionally. That's all I can think about more than anything else.
And you mentioned earlier Tenet. I mean, like we haven't even talked about it really. Great. It's a great movie. I loved it so much. I guess like, you know, even under the circumstances, I think, you know, people saw it. It feels like it reminds me, I feel like that's a movie that people will, because of the circumstances of the release and like, you know, this fraught time, people will be finding that over and over, like finding that a lot more, right, as it goes on. And like, as now that it's on home video and stuff, I guess, can you talk a little about like, yeah, I think that's a great performance. And I guess like what did you learn on Tenet maybe that you were able to, if anything, that you were able to like, you know, as a performer that you maybe brought to this project too?
Well, it's totally different.
Totally different, yeah.
I probably have more, I think I want to be the protagonist in my real life more than Malcolm. I definitely agree with protagonist's tactics more than Malcolm's tactics. That being said, though, what I found similar was, you know, directors that were really open to the process and really trust their actors. I mean, that is, as a performer, you love that. You feel like you're I don't know, that you're not actor for hire. That you're a teammate, you know. So to me, that felt really good, and I didn't expect that from Christopher Nolan. I was ready to yes sir, no sir, whatever you need, sir. Still am, but just he was like, no, what do you need? You know, when he and Hoyte van Hoytema, the great DP on that, said, we'll adjust to you. They said that to me. I was like, I couldn't believe that these two guys, I call them the brain trust when they're figuring out shots, telling me, oh, we'll adjust to you. Don't worry about it. I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Did these two legends just tell me that? Spike too. Spike was like, no, is that what you're going to do? Do it. I don't just keep going. Sometimes he'd roll and I didn't even realize yet. So that felt alive, and it kept me like, it got me very excited to know that whatever I bring to it can make the film, and they're not trying to manipulate me into something that they want. You know, if there's something isn't working, obviously they communicate that, all three of these directors. But I'd say that was what was in common, that they trusted me with the material.
Nice. And I mean, the performances are great. Like, I think all three of those, Malcolm and Marie and Tenon and Black Lantern as well, are incredible performances. So John David Washington, thank you so much for doing this. I know we have to wrap it up. Yeah, Malcolm and Marie is out February 5th on Netflix. Thank you.
Thank you.